So My Hero Academia this week was another very enjoyable episode, this time focusing on those supporting characters who don't always have enough time to shine, but luckily with Season 2 we're giving them those times to shine. Getting to see their individual matches before we get to that big explosive one, which would be the Deku and All Might fight. And yes, there was even some of that kind of like shipping that was going on after the credits there that I'm sure the My Hero Academia fandom probably is going nuts over. But I really enjoyed two of these fights a lot. The two biggest one is obviously the Tokiyami as well as Froppy fight, which I thought was very, very fun to see because Froppy is a character who, in Season 1, my initial impression, because we didn't get to see a whole lot of her, was either A, she was just going to be a mascot-level character, or she was going to be a fetish bait character, because... I mean, I shouldn't have to explain why I got the impression that she could easily be a fetish bait character when we're in modern anime, and that's a lot of these kind of like monster-style girls are. But within this season, we're seeing a lot of development in the case of just getting better sense of her personality and also her fighting style. But what I really liked with this episode is we get the kind of the confirmation that basically, in terms of her, she doesn't have a lot of weaknesses. She seems like an overall well-rounded fighter who is good for supporting her team. But when it comes to Tokiyami, he is someone who isn't good at close range. So that's why they're paired up against a teacher who is forcing him into a close range fight. So I like that fight a lot because we got to see it's kind of unexpected to see a character like Froppy not have really any major weaknesses where I thought she would have something, but it's nice to see a character like her be able to hold her own and is a great supporting character, and they ultimately get the win in their own individual fight there, which I really enjoyed. But I think the star of this episode would be the Todoroki, and I believe her name is Momo, I think that's her first name. I like this fight because she is a character who I really never have had an impression of her character. I have never been annoyed when she's on screen, but I've never been that fascinated. But it's interesting to see her mentality in this fight because she's just following Todoroki's, lead and just kind of believing that he's better, like she's stronger, he has done way more than her. Her plans are just pointless. Even though they all got into the same school the same way, she feels like she's falling behind and her kind of like strategic values are just worthless. So it's interesting that Eraserhead put them up together against him because his entire goal of this match was to break her out of the shell that she's forced herself in. And I really quite like his character because you would think he would be one of the most hard-ass teachers out there, but in fact he's actually seems to be like one of the most caring ones out there because of what he's doing. And I like how the team were kind of starting out where, we're watching Todoroki's fight kind of go down, things like that, and it seems like his plan isn't working because he just assumed his plan was, not really thinking about what she might have to say, and her plan was quite cool, kind of like mimicking his like bandages or his like cloth that he was using, then using Todoroki's fire to heat it up and kind of like capture him. It was a very nice counterattack, and I loved how it kind of like built up throughout the fight to her crying at the end because she's so happy that she feels like she actually has value and she isn't someone who is worthless like she was believing herself. So both of those fights were very, very entertaining, both just kind of shedding a bit more light into certain characters like Tokiyami and his weaknesses, and showing that with the right partners, and even by himself, he should be able to overcome and be an amazing hero by the time he finishes his school there. But at the other side of the spectrum, we have two great characters who we get to see a bit more. When it comes to Todoroki, he doesn't have a whole lot of weaknesses. He does have them, but he's kind of been overcoming them throughout this season, but it's really just him trying to help out Momo because she has a lot of kind of personal issues that she had to overcome, and it definitely seems like she did. And I quite like things like this because we're not just rushing into the big explosive fight. All of them are having their own kind of individual importance for these characters, and it's nice to see characters like Froppy and all these others, even Momo, have time to shine in their own way because a lot of series brush past them in favor of focusing on the kind of like shipping favorite characters of the females or just the main character and his main antagonist. But overall, this was a very fun episode. I thought it was enjoyable. It had its kind of like fun action, some very kind of quick fights with Ida and things like that, and then there was that after the credits stuff, which should lead into some good content next week. But overall, this was a fun episode that did enough with its supporting characters that has my respect, and I'm very excited to see what next week is going to bring. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What did you think of this episode? From a couple of manga readers, from what I've heard, they said that they were impressed. I think it was with the Ida fight, that apparently like in the manga it was only a couple panels, but they kind of extended it a bit more in the anime, and they respected that because you got to see a bit more, which is the same thing what happened with Froppy and her internship, I know as well. So it's nice to see the anime kind of expanding on the already existing manga, which is what I think anime should always do. But let me know some of your thoughts down in the comment section below, and before I leave, smack that like button to show your support. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.